So, to have shadows, we need some lights. So we're gonna just do a simple 2 light setup. Usually it's a 3-point light setup. I'm just gonna use 2 this time, keep it simple. I'm going to use 2 different kinds of lights. I'm going to use one Omni light, which is a basic light, and then one spotlight that has a target with it, so I can move the target of that light around. Okay, so the first one then that I'm going to add in is, and you find all of your lights right down here, everybody, if you remember, right here. I'm going to click on this light, and I'm going to choose a target light right here. So this is like a target spotlight. So the reason why I'm choosing that one, I know right away that that target's going to be pointing right at 0. Right? Now, it's not shining exactly how I want it to shine. I can definitely grab this and move it up. Maybe move it overhead a little bit. And if I go back into, I'm still in my point mode right now. If I go back into my model mode, right here, click on that, you're going to see that I'm going to get these little yellow dots on the end of the light. And with that, I can make that light a lot bigger. And I'm going to pull it out a lot more, just to diffuse the whole thing a lot more. Now, if I render this out, everyone, those shadows do not happen automatically on here. Okay? You do have, this is the old style render. If you're using the newer style, yes, they will come on. But the old style that we're using right now, you'll see in the parameters or the attributes for the light, you have one called shadows right here. Now, right now the shadows are set to none. If you click on where it says none, you'll see that I have different types of shadow maps right here. So one is soft shadow maps. I'll just go through all of them quickly so you can see, and we can determine which one looks more realistic. So soft shadows. Soft shadows on. Not getting a whole bunch off the soft shadows. Okay, a little bit happening around here, but not too much. Okay? Hard shadows. And the reason why it's happening is because, of course, we have, you know, something that's very transparent. The light's just passing right through. But with the hard shadows, and there's some weird hard shadows going on. Now with the area shadow, you're gonna get something that kind of in between, looks a lot more realistic. You're gonna see it diffuse over a period of over the distance, depending on the angle that the light is shining at it. So if I was to take this light, let me zoom out this one right here. If I was to take this light and bring it a little bit more overhead, of course the shadow is going to change along with it. Right? Okay. Now, I'm going to set up a camera on here, and then that camera, I'm going to set up some depth of field on it. And I think everybody knows what depth of field is. You'll see the object getting more out of focus as it's as the distance of it changes. And we get to determine what that distance is. So I'm going to do it once over here. I don't want you guys to follow what I'm doing. Just watch for right now because it's a few steps, and then we'll do it step by step after. Okay? All right, so I'm going to choose my camera. Target camera, using target camera because I know the target's going to be right in here. So target camera, drop it in. Right now, I can't see what the camera's seeing. I have this little switch that I have to turn on. Okay? Flipping on the switch. That's what my camera's seeing. So the target is pointing right at 0, where we built our first glass, for me, at least. I don't want it to point there. I want it to kind of move here. So I'm going to grab the camera target and just move the camera target around until I get it in the scene where I want. And I can also, with the camera, because I'm looking through the camera right now, I can also just grab this and move this into place. Right? So I'm actually moving the camera around right now. If you look at this in all of my different views, and I have this one selected, and I'm just rotating this around, you'll see that the camera is moving now when I move it, because I have the camera activated. set up that depth of field and to get this, give the illusion of this being out of focus. This is how it's done. Within the camera, everybody, you have all of these different switches down here. The only one that I want you to pay attention to right now is the one that says details on it. Within details, you see I have DOF, depth of field, front blur, don't want to use that. I want to use depth of field, back blur. Not a back blur one. If I render this out right now, still, nothing's gonna happen, okay? But what it has given me, if you look at the camera right now, I have this first little square right here. So up to this point, everything is in focus. And then anything past this square right here, everything is out of focus. So the more I drag this one in, is the shallower my depth of field is. Okay, so this glass right here would be out of focus, and these would be. Okay, makes sense so far?
Yeah.
All right, now if I render it out over here, still not gonna get anything. Okay? You have to make the final change within the render settings. Okay, so if I go into my render settings, which is this one right here with the little settings icon on it, click on that one, and we go down to where it says effect, and choose depth of field. And there I can determine how blurry I want it to be. So let me say I crank it up to 9. And I know that these two glasses here are going to be out of focus. If I click on this right now, let me move this out of the way and just take another quick shot of it. It's gonna go through a first pass. And you can see the render starting to slow down a little bit too. The more of this stuff that you add to it is the more it takes a render. And if you look down here right now, it's processing right here down at the bottom. Move that out of the way. So you can see it's a little bit fuzzy on the back right here. If I want to edit that some more, I'm going to just make that depth of field a bit more shallow. I can actually pull all of the camera right back. So I'm just focused in on the one light, the one cup. I'm going to turn this up just to make it a bit more evident to you guys. I don't usually like using the strong depth of field. Let's see what that looks like now. And the other thing I can do is actually just select this glass and say, let me just move it back a little bit more. And move this out of the way. So if I render this out now, it's going to go through the first pass. And you can see it's starting to get really blurry out. Right, so you can determine what the focus is. You can see how sharp this stem is right down here, and this stem is not that sharp. But this one is kind of still in focus a little bit, but this stem here is starting to get out of focus, and this one is just like right out of it, right? Okay, so that's how you would set up a scene, give it some depth of field, give it a bit more of a look. Now, I'm just going to show you what the difference is with the transparency of the shadow and something else. So I'm just going to drop, let's see, just drop a sphere down here. And I'll give it a quick material. I'll give it the same material as, because I don't want to make, well, I'll make another quick material. Just tweak the color a little bit. Grab this yellow, throw it on there. So you, just so you can see what the shadow looks like, because I don't think the glass represents, does a good job of seeing what the shadows look like. So there's your diffuse shadow with everything, and there's this circle right here. If I grab this and sure enough move it all the way to the back, and maybe over a bit, you probably won't be able to see it. It's going to be just a big blur in the back. See the first part of the render renders it out fine, and then the blur comes into place. Okay? I noticed that there's a little bit of an anomaly though, that this is still in focus. Can't figure it out. Okay, so that is the lathe so far. Setting things up with a bit of a light. Camera setup with the depth of field. I'll take you through the camera so you guys can set up your own camera. So let me delete all of this. And you guys ready to follow along? Everybody good? Okay. Camera, right down here. Which camera are we using? Target. Drop the target in. How do we look through it? How do we activate the camera?
On the top and right, click it there.
Yeah, click on this guy. That's it right there. Camera's not looking where I want it to look. How do I change where I want it to look? Two ways. We can move both the camera and the camera target, right? So the camera target, if I have that selected, I can move my camera target around like that if I want to, okay? If I want to move the camera around, I'm moving the camera now, okay? Okay, select the camera. Depth of field is where?
It will be in render settings.
That's part of it, yes. Well, how do I set up depth of field on the camera? Under details, whereabouts is it? Which one? See right here.
Oh, at the bottom rear.
So, the rear one?
Yeah.
And that's going to give me these two different cones. You can see that if I turn this on and off, there it is on, there it is off. Okay? Turn it back on. I'm gonna pull this one in now. Let's make it a bit more shallow. Okay, next place to set it up. We already set it. Render settings. Click on render settings. I already have it set right here from the last time. And I have this cranked up a lot. And that is pretty much it. Now there's a lot of stuff that we can do with like the focal length and stuff like that, but we're gonna leave that for another time, I think. Okay, and if you do your render, that's what you get. Okay, there's it from the top. There's perspective mode. And there your glass is set up. Okay, now other thing you can do with the glasses, if you don't want them to be as clear as that, let's say if you wanted them to be a bit frosted, let me go back into my materials.
Yeah, I can.
Click on the glass.
I can follow that.
If you go into the transparency settings, I'm just gonna crank up the blur of this a little bit for the glass, make the glass frosted. Crank it up a little bit more. You can see the glass becoming more and more frosted there. Just turn this off. I usually use this if I want something to look more like a silicone sort of look instead of glass. And of course, as soon as I add that, you know, glasses are gonna take a little bit longer to render out. Okay, so that's the lathe generator, camera setup, a little bit of lighting, adding some thickness, so that's two generators right there. The next one that I want to look at, everyone, is one called the loft generator. Now the loft generator is when you use not just one spline, but a series of different splines together to build a shape. So with the loft, you can build stuff like, there's a lot of stuff. Here's a loft, screwdriver. Maybe we'll build up a screwdriver right now. So there's a screwdriver right there, with all the little facets and everything to it. So let's build that out, but let's do a more simplified version before we get into the screwdriver. Now, in that same texture folder that we have, I have two images called base on there. Open up a new document for me, please. We'll kind of continue where we left off with the glass a little bit. So go to File in New, close my materials, and open up your 4 views for me, please. And like I said, we're going to be building first in our right view and in our front view. This time, I'm going to show you how to use a template that's there to be used to help guide as we build this out. So we're gonna build it out with the loft tool. We're gonna add thickness the same way we did with the cloth. We can copy and paste the same glass to take the texture over. I don't think I'm gonna have you guys set up a scene on this one because I wanna get into some other ones. Okay, so to start, everyone, in your front view, go into your front view, please, everybody. Click on where it says View. And right at the bottom of view where it says configure, we're going to choose the first configure. That's in there. Click on that for me, please. Once you click on that configure, you're going to have some attributes that pop up that say back. Well, it's going to say view, filter, side frames, back, HUD, stereoscopic, and effects. We just want back right now. Now on back, you'll see that you have a little, depending on which version you have, you'll have a little folder, or you're going to have a little button that has like the 3 dots in it, I think. So that's just letting you search to grab an image. You can see right beside there it has an image. So if I click on this folder, go into that same texture folder, go into your class files, and go into textures right there, and you're going to have a front view, and you're going to have a side view. Okay? In the front view that we're working on right here, choose the front side. So the front tip, drop that one in. And you can see that I have this image right in here right now, in the front view. Okay? Now, in the right view, let's do the same thing, but with the other image. So, under view, go down to where it says configure, click on that, you'll get a new HUD system that pops up for back on here. We're going to click on the little folder again, or the button, and instead of front, I'm going to choose side. Okay, I'll let you guys load those up. Okay, everybody all set? Okay. Now, I mentioned before that when we're building stuff at 0. However, the base of this vase right here that we're going to build out is below that 0 line right here. So you can see that we have a X offset and a Y offset. So on the Y offset, I'm going to start messing with those numbers, moving this up, and just cranking it up, see how far I have to go until it hits the floor. So right now, I have mine set to 230 on the Y. Okay, 230 on Y, on the right side. So then we're going to have to do 230 on the front side also, to get those to line up. So we'll click on the front side, and I know it's 230, I'm just going to type 230 in. Just to drop it right on that 0 line right there. Then we can always move the windows down. So as I mentioned, we're using the loft. This looks like a kind of wine decanter or vase or something. We're going to use a series of circle splines now. And we're going to follow the distance and the width of the vase to help build that out.
The pen tool?
This is what no pen tool this time. We're kind of done with the pen tool for now. We're just going to use a spline. For me to ask you to just draw circles out all day, that would be like some really bad punishment. So I don't want to do that. So under the splines, everybody, we have circle spline. Click on the circle spline. You can see that the orientation of this is not correct right now. We need to be laying flat. So the orientation for that is XZ, the very final one, to have it lay flat.
So that'd be big.
Who needs help? Here's some chatter.
Yeah.
No. All we're doing is just dropping a spline on there and laying it flat.
top. You gotta see.
Okay. Now, if we look at this, everybody, we can see that the circle spline that's on here is just like way too big to start. So we can change the radius of it over here, but I don't want to keep going back and forth and changing it. If you hold down number 5 on your keyboard and you just pull your mouse across, it's going to scale it in. Now the radius isn't going to change because we're doing a scale, okay? So that's, to me, that's just more of an organic way to build it out. So this is what I want you to do, everybody. So there's my circle spline right there. I can see what the width of it is compared to the width of the object here. I'm gonna hold down number 5 on my keyboard. Start scaling that in until it fits the size of the base. Okay? You'll see that if I look over here, the radius is still going to say 200. But don't be fooled, it's obviously smaller. So what I would like you to do, everyone, once you have the base done, then the next step is to hold down your command key, make a copy, and bring it up to the next section, let's say right around here where it starts to kind of fan out a bit. And then hold on number 5 again, and push that out until it reaches the edges. So I have 2 of them now. Same thing again. Make a copy. Make it come up a little bit more when it starts to taper in. Scale it in. Hold down your command key. Gonna bring it up to where the next starts to start. Hold on number 5. Scale it in. So you can see, if you look at my perspective mode, you can see what I'm starting to do with it over here, right? Hold on number 5. Bring it up to the narrowest point and scale it in again. We will have to go in and tweak some of this, but this is where we start from. And then I'm gonna go right to the very top, command key up to the top, gonna get it right in between the lines right there. I can see that this one is on an angle. I just have to grab my rotate tool then, and let me zoom in a bit. I just want this to match that angle. If I hold on my shift key, I believe it's around 20 degrees. Not quite 20. It's almost like 23, but I like to hold down the shift key, so I'm just gonna leave mine at 20. Won't be exact, but good enough. So once it's there, I can see that it's not the exact size. Also, hold down that number 5 key and scale it out until it fits. Okay, so I'll give you guys a second till you get caught up with that, but this is where we're starting from. You can see kind of the shape of that vase happening right now. Okay? All right, so the generator that we're gonna use this time is the loft generator. Now, the one thing that I have to point out, and I'm gonna screw this up just so you can see what can happen, all of these have to be in the correct order as we're building this out. Okay? If they get moved around, Cinema's not gonna like it too much. So this is the generator that we're going to use. Okay, so if I click back down here, we're going to be using the loft generator. Click on loft. Grab all of these circles and drop them in to the loft. And we're gonna get that. Okay, so there's our vase, our 2D vase from 2 sides, now in 3D. Now the top of this is closed, and it's a little bit kind of janky around the outside, but we're gonna fix all of that, right? So to be able to fix this, I need to see the geometry. So once again, what mode am I going to change it to see the geometry in the display functions? Come on guys, display function, keyboard shortcut, start getting used to them. NB is your friend, okay? NB will bring up your ground shading with lines, so you can see what the geometry looks like. Okay, now for this to be a functional vase, everybody, the top of this can't be there. so within the loft functions and under caps, you'll see that we have check marks for a start cap and an end cap. You know, you can never remember which one is which, so turn off the start cap, and then we have the inside of our vase. Now, you can see with this, everybody just look up here for a second. All of this stuff is still independent. If I grab this line right here, number 3, wherever it is, I can grab that and, you know, move that around. Maybe I want a piece of modern art or something. I can move that around like that. And of course, we can rotate all of these also. So you can go in here and make edits to all of this while that generator is still active. And that goes for all the generators. You can still go on and activate everything. Even if I take this and add some thickness to it right now. So let's say that on this one, I'm gonna add some thickness with the cloth surface again. Okay, cloth surface going in. You can see it adds a little bit more geometry, and I'm gonna give it quite a bit of thickness on this one. Let's make this like 6. Whoa, not 600, but 6. Send the screen at me now. There we go. So there's geometry with it having a little bit of thickness on the outside. You know, I don't want to go through and build that glass again. So I'm just gonna jump back over here. I have this glass material already built. I'm gonna copy it. I'm gonna go back to my number 6 right there and paste it in. Drag it on top. And I don't necessarily like the frosted look on this, so I'm gonna turn that frosted look off. Okay, so that's another way of building an object. So this one is pretty close to the others that were done. Let me do a quick render of this out in space just to see what the glass looks like. So once again, decent enough material on a shape that has a little bit more complexity than what we built before. Okay, so if you look at both of those methods right now, let me go back to this one right here, a railing. If you look at this, how would I build something like this, everybody? If I was to take this apart, I got a lathe in here, right? My lathe is in a cloner. You guys have used cloners. If I look at the cloner right now, you can see that I can make more or less of them, right?
Basically equivalent to how you made the roof for the snow globe.
Exactly. But I'm just using a generator right now inside of a cloner, right? So you can start duplicating all those different things and start to build stuff that looks a lot more complex, right? Okay, let us, everyone, we're gonna build this one right here, screwdriver. Okay? Now, let me just break this one down before we get into it. I started on a breakdown of this one already. Hold on, let me, okay, so right here, everyone. Here's the handle of the screwdriver. Okay? If I turn this loft off, that's what it looks like. Right? So I got a surface spline, and then I got this little flower object right here. That's duplicated right there. There's another one right there. And then duplicated again, but they have to be in the same order. This is what happens if they're not in the same order, okay? Let's say that I just grabbed this one right here. I'm gonna use this flower spline. I'm gonna put it down at the bottom. You see what's happening here? That flower spline now, it's still in the same position, but it's way down at the bottom. So it's trying to like loop itself around to be in the right order, and then things can get really screwed up that way. So whenever you're building this stuff, try to build it in the right progression and the right order.
So orders. Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna start building this out. And then, I don't know if I'm gonna have you guys build a handle at least, okay? So let's do this, everybody. I'm gonna delete all this stuff. Okay, let's start off with a circle spline. Yes, hands up. Yep.
I don't know, somehow my mouse is not working. I'm trying to select stop, but it's once I click on.
You have the right click set?
Yeah. And it's just this. Once I click on this, there's not this click anymore. I'm trying to move to like this.
Okay, looks like
I don't know.
it's a long part.
Even when I make a move, once it is made, it doesn't work.
Tilt correctly.
All right, there you go. So it should. How do I select it? You have to click on something you love.
With the law.
All right.
How do you have the
Let's
law?
I don't have a back template for this one. We're just gonna build a screwdriver out. I want you guys to take a few minutes to build it out, okay? All right, so just like a vase again, everybody, the bottom of the screwdriver is kind of round, so I'm gonna do this. I'm going to scale this part in. I don't need the screwdriver to be that big. Scale this one in around right there. I'm going to lift this up. I'm gonna scale this one out. Lift this one up, maybe scale it back in a little bit. And then I need another spline. So the spline that I'm going to choose to use is this one here called flower spline. Drop that one in. Didn't take. Grab it. Oh, there it is now. Computer's running really slowly. Make it flat. You're gonna move it into the right place. And the one that I had only had 4 different, what they call petals on it, I guess. So I'm just gonna use 4 on this one also. And that's too big, I'm gonna scale that in. This one's gonna travel up a bit, so I'll make a copy of this. And what I do sometimes, everybody, is just drop my loft in there right from the start. Just so I can start to see what it looks like, and I can tweak this as I build it. That the bottom one here has to be moved up, so you can edit this as you go. Now on the loft, this is very, very square also, so I might have to make some changes on the loft. one thing I'm going to change, it comes with a very few subdivisions, so it might look like that. But if you go into the loft and go under object, you can crank up the amount of subdivisions on there to make it more representative of the spline that's being used.
Really scale it out, using this kind of like, unlimited like a farm.
Okay, everybody just have a quick look up here for me, please.
Yes, sir.
Everybody have a look up here. Okay, now because I want this to be somewhat symmetrical as far as the size of this goes, and I've just been using number 5 to scale it and not having any real value to it, I want to make a copy of this circle right here to start adding to the top, because I know that it's the same circle down here that I want on the top up here. So I'm going to make a copy of this circle. Hold on my command key, make a copy of it. Now it's going to change up here, but unfortunately it doesn't change down here, right? It's still in that same position. So I have to, because it's at the top right now, I have to match the order over here that it is over here. So I have to grab this now and move this one up to the top for the circle. Right? Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Now that I have it there, now I can just grab this and start making another circle, moving this one up. I'm gonna scale this one in. Make another little circle. You can pull it up like that too, but if I pull it up like that to make a copy of it, automatically it wants to go down to the bottom. Okay, so it's gotta be back up here at the top. So you get that smooth transition. And then I want this flower one here again, so both of these to get into that transition again. So command key, pull it up to the top. It's still going to be in the same position. I gotta move it up here to finish off that handle. So we'll make another one. Pull this one up. And then I'm going to end off with a circle on the top. Pull that circle into the right position. So you can see how the loft tool works. We're not going to build out a whole screwdriver. But from building it like that, that's the same way that this screwdriver here was built to. Okay, same exact way. Okay, a few different tweaks of the pedal and stuff like that, but that's how that was built out. So you can start to see how you can start to get stuff that looks, once you start adding the materials to it and stuff, you can start building more complex shapes. Okay.
Let's see like the scale value for some of them.
Now, another generator, let's go through the list right here, everybody. So far we've looked at cloth, lathe, loft. The next one we can look at is just the extrude. And a few other things that I'm gonna have you guys work on something. Okay, for the extrude, everybody. This is how the extrude works. I'm gonna do some simple stuff, and you're going to do some things that are a bit more complex. Let me add another new project. If I have a spline here, everyone, and that spline fits into the same hierarchy that we're using before in an extrude, so the spline is inside the extrude, just gives us a few like that, right? So with this, within extrude, I can change the offset, which is kind of the thickness of it. If I put my grout shading with lines on, you see I have no subdivisions, but I can make more subdivisions if I want, give it more geometry. I can define if I want to have a start cap or an end cap. I can define if I wanted to have a kind of, not a curve, but where are my bevelers? Close this curve right here for now. freeze up.
And make sure you need
Gentle with it. Okay, I can choose on the bevel that I can add to this, so we have bevel shapes right here at curve. If I move it back to round, you can see that on round is for both bevels, I can move that in. So along with those bevels, you can see I'm just doing one for start. For both sides, for start and end. But I can choose to have, and I can change the height of that bevel too, actually. Let me move that out so you guys can see. You can see you can change the height of the bevel within the extrude. So that's just the normal bevel, but you also have a bunch of presets for the bevels too. So if you click on preset, load presets, it'll give you all of these. Okay, so if I wanted to change this, I just have to double click on it, and it's going to switch that bevel out for me. Okay, and then it'll give you all the parameters for that you can change also. Okay, so a lot you can do with this as far as beveling and extruding and all that kind of stuff. Now to take this a step further, everyone, you have, or you should have, not the Beats logo, that was just me earlier on, you should have this logo. Okay, open that up in Illustrator for me, please, everybody. Now, as everyone knows, Illustrator, this has it's a vector object, so it's made up of paths or splines. You can take this and import it into Cinema, and then you can start doing some stuff with it in Cinema, right? So the logo that we have right now, everyone, we have, well, I'll show you how to do this part in Cinema actually. So this logo as it is right now, in this version of Cinema, will not work. Okay, this has to be saved out, and this is important if you want to plan anything and move it into Illustrator. Let me see if I can show you something here quickly. File, open. Okay, I'll show you in a bit. Something else I was building out of Illustrator. So this has to be saved out of this version of Adobe Illustrator 2023, way back to Illustrator 8. Okay, before some of you were born, before Cinema can recognize it. Okay, so this is how you do it. So I'm going to take this logo, I'm going to go under File, everyone, and I can go to Save a Copy. In that Save a Copy, you can give it a different name if you like. I'm going to call mine Converted Copy is good enough. And Illustrator is selected. Click on Save. Once you click on Save, this is where you change the version of it. As I said, if you don't change this, it just won't open. Okay? Every year I do this, and then I have somebody, well, the Illustrator file's not working. Because you didn't change this part. So change it from Illustrator 20, whatever it is, to Illustrator 8. Seems to work best. 3 works sometimes too, but 8's going to take it down to its basic mathematical identity, and you will be able to illustrate it in as a path into Cinema 4D. Okay, so click on OK when you're done. Yes, we know it's an older format. Please continue. And that's it. So if I have, let me get rid of this right here. I'll just use the same one. If I have this active right now, and I click on File, and let's go File, Open Project. And I'm going to navigate back to where I have that copy of it done. I'm going to click on Open. And right now, just leave it at the default settings. Click on OK. I'm going to get this. Right, so you get this full path coming in with everything right now. And we're going to extrude it. We're going to add some textures to it, some lights, and we're going to get the little poster thing that looks pretty cool. Okay, before we do any of that though, look up here, please, everyone. I have all of this stuff. I have all of these paths in here. Now, I don't wanna have to add extrudes to all of these. I could put them in something called a connect object. But what I'm going to do is fuse all of these different paths together right here in Cinema. The equivalent is you could do this in Illustrator also, if you just, in the Pathfinder, if you go to unite all of them. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. So I like to do this part in, right within Cinema. So I'm going to select all of these paths. I'm going to right click on it. And right down here, we have one called Connect and Delete. So it's going to do exactly that. It's going to connect all the paths together, and then it's going to delete all the original ones. So we're gonna end up with one path when we're done. So let's do that. Connect and delete. So here's my one path. I can just give it this name. It doesn't need to be set in a hierarchy right now, so I'm gonna delete the null object that it was in, and I just have the path right now. Now, the other thing is, remember I said we build everything from 0. Where is this? It's definitely not 0, right? So let's go down to our coordinates manager, make sure that's open, let's just zero this out. Drop it down to 0, and click on H, kind of center it in the frame. Okay, so we're gonna extrude this, we're gonna add some bevels to it, we're gonna add some textures to it, and get something that looks nice. Okay, so to extrude this, everybody, same as we did before with just that square spline. Grab the extrude. Now, here's a shortcut, everybody. I don't like how long this name is. To bypass the stage of dragging it and dropping it into the hierarchy, if I have my spline selected that I want to drop in, and I hold on my Option key, and I just click on Extrude, it's going to give me that right now. Now I can tell from this is moving at, the extrude is moving at, where is it? At 100. This is a little bit big, so that means my spline came over really small. So I'm going to select my spline, and I'm going to pull it right out of the extrude. And I'm just going to scale this up separately, just make it a little bit bigger. I don't know what the value is, sorry. But I'm just scaling this to make mine a little bit bigger. Here, let me get a measurement for you. Let's scale it up. I've just dropped another rectangle spline in. I'm going to scale up the logo until it's at the edge of the square. Kind of like that, until one side's touching, okay? Just until the side is touching. I know that the functions might be off a little bit. Sometimes when you bring stuff over from Illustrator, you might have to bring it over a few times to get things to line up properly. Okay, so it should be approximately this size. I can get rid of this rectangle spline right now. I just wanted to use it for measurement. And I'm going to take this and drop it back into the extrude. And that is still very, very long. Let me get rid of that extrude and we can use another. Something funky's going on with the extrude. Okay, that's way too long. All right, what we're going to do, it shouldn't be as long as that. I'm not sure what's going on with it. Let me try a few things here. My computer's running a little bit funny too. It's lagging a lot. There we go. Let me try something here, everyone. I'm going to re-import this in. Hold on, because I don't like what's happening here. gonna get rid of this. I might have to do it a different way. Hold on. Alright, have a look here, everybody. Let me see if I can fix this. Which is kinda good for you guys to know. If this is happening, this might fix it, okay? So I might have to change the size of it in the root object instead of in here. So let me go back under file. Let me go to open project. My computer's really acting up. File. Open. Okay, there we go. Converted. Click on open. Now, this is where I might have to change it. Right now, the scale of this is only 1. So I'm gonna change the scale of this to, I'm gonna start off with trying 10. See. And clicking OK. And then going through the same process again of grabbing all of these. Now 10 might not be big enough, but let's try it. Let me try connect and delete again. Pull it out. And drop it back into the extrude. Let's see if that's any better. That is much better. Okay.
What's the value when you save the rigging?
10. So I'll go through it again, because I might even change the value one more time. Okay? So let me delete all of this. Actually, let me just close this this window right here. Nope. So file, open project, Ninja Turtles. I tried 10. I'm gonna try 15 now because it could still be down a bit. So I'm just scaling up the spline before I bring it in. Click on OK. Pull this down. Waiting for it to select. Oh boy, my computer needs to be rebooted. Connect and delete. Pull this out. Give it a name, getting rid of the null object, zeroing this out, so it's back at 0. H, we should be good to go now. So scaling it up at value of 15. And using our extrude now. Here we go. Extrude right here. Much better. Okay. Now this is still a little bit thick. The offset on my extrude is still at 100 centimeters. I'm gonna make that a lot less, maybe half of that. Maybe even less. Maybe I'll make it around 40 centimeters. And now we're going to add our bevel and everything to the outside edge of this. Okay, so there's our logo. Let's go under caps, everybody. Under caps, I want to influence both of the bevels. I'm going to just start rounding it out before I change any presets. So you can see we're getting a little bit of a bevel on it right there. Let me zoom in a bit so you can see it. So keep that bevel length. I'm going to keep it at around maybe 3 to start.
3 exact?
Yeah, actually, 2 looks healthy. And I always want to look at my geometry to see what's going on. Okay, now I'm going to try one of the presets on here. So I'm going to go into the curve editor for it. Hold on, I just want to see something for a quick second. So leave it in round, everybody. Curve editor might be a little bit much right now. Leave it under round. Go into load presets for me, please. And I would like to choose, let's see, which one? I'm gonna choose one with a bit of an inset, probably this one that I already have. I'm just gonna double click on this. Inset it like that. And then I can start tweaking the size of some of this. So right now my size is at 5. I'm gonna turn the size down to, back down to 3. Okay, so there we have a little bit of a bevel going on the outside. I want to texture this, but I want to texture certain parts of this. Okay, so Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, of course, we're going to use green on some of the textures. So let's grab a green texture, everybody. Let's do green and kind of like a silver texture. So let's add a base material. Let's open up the parameters for that base material. And of course, color is going to be, well, let's try something that you guys haven't done before. Let's go in and try a noise pattern, everybody. So go down to noise for me, please. You'll get something kind of modeled like that. Click on the little box that has a noise pattern on it. And then let's change it to a couple of values of green, okay? So maybe I have like a dark green over here, and maybe the white can be light green.
Let me see the values, bigger screen, 120.
You can see them if you like, but good if everybody's is a little bit different.
Alright.
It doesn't have to be the same. Just light green, dark green.
Alright.
And then for the outside, another thing that I haven't shown you yet, I'm gonna use a metallic texture. Now for the metallic texture, everybody, let me show you something that you guys will like, if you guys haven't seen it yet. Right over here, everybody's gonna be using this now. Right over here, you have an asset browser. Okay, now I don't know if this is a good thing to show you guys this or not, because nobody's going to build their own stuff anymore. Click on this, and there's all sorts of stuff in here. There's objects, and there's materials, and a bunch of other things that you can explore later on. So under materials, let's look for metal. Put all the metal in there. Let's grab well, you choose. Grab a metallic material for yourself.
Right now.
I'm going to grab this kind of busted up bronze looking one right here. So I'm going to double click on it. If I double click on it, it's going to load from the asset browser into my materials manager.
Click on materials. Find materials.
Okay, so I have 2 materials in here right now. Okay, now they don't have any HDRs or anything like that on there. But choose a couple materials. We're going to load them up, or we're going to load them up in a specific way where the materials are only influenced on certain parts of this object. Okay, can everybody have a quick look up here for me, please? Okay, first material. I'm going to drop it on. Now, if I drop that first material on, everybody, it's going to make everything look like that, right? But what if I wanted just the inside of that to be green and the outside to be silver? This is what you would have to do. So I'm going to grab, well, bronze. So I'm going to grab the bronze one and drop the bronze one on also. So everything's going to go bronze right now, right? That needs an HDR for sure. So if I select one of these, I can identify where on here I would like it to be. Now, if you look at the extrude is made up of mainly 4 different sections to it. The first section is called the cap. So this would be the cap, this front section right here. The other part would be the bevel, or what they call the rounding. And you have like a cap for the front and a cap for the back. So that would be C1, and then on the back would be C2. The bevel or the rounding would be called R1 and R2. Okay, so if I define this now, so if I go over here and I say, I want this green, I can go down to where it says selection here, to be on cap 1. I'm gonna click on C, capital C, and 1. Right, nothing's gonna change because this one is on the root right now. But if I choose this one and say I want it to be R1, I get that. Right, so you can see that it's in a specific area on the rounding of this bevel right here. Now, if I wanted this outside section to be just silver, so another texture, let me grab another one. Grab this aluminum one right here. Load that up. I want that one to be on the outside edge. I'm just gonna drag that, drop it in. Everything's going to change until I change the layer order right here. So think of layers in Photoshop. These are layers in Cinema. I'm gonna grab this one, I'm gonna place it behind everything else. So right now, I have 3 different textures on one object. I have the green in the front, I have the bronze going around the bevel, or the rounding, and I have the silver on the side. Right, so let's finish this one off, because I want you guys to work on some other stuff. What I'm going to do is just set a background to this. Let me just flatten this out so I have a little bit of a shadow for it to go on. Let's pretend that this is like a sign or something. I'm gonna push this out to the back, lift it up like this, and just drop it in. Better if I do this from the front view, actually. So just think of this as a panel that this is sitting on. And push it back in 3D space a bit. Just so it's kind of resting on top. Now, the other thing I'm going to do, I'm missing HDRs on all of these materials here. I want it to have a little bit of shine to it. I know that in the previous ones that I built, which one is it? Not that one. Oh, I have an HDR on this one. I'm just going to double click on this one, go into the environment channel, and I want to go through the whole process of loading it up. So I'm just going to borrow it from over here. I'm just going to say, hey, I'd like to copy this shader in this channel. So I'm going to copy it from here, go back over to my Ninja Turtles, and just start double clicking on the environment for all of these and pasting. There it is there. On the bronze, turn on the environment, paste it in here. Now I might have to turn it down a little bit. They're a little bit too shiny. And then on the green here, also double click on that to open it up and drop it on the green. So I'm just copying and pasting and moving that into place. So paste shader. And then do like what we did before, just by adding a few lights to this. I'm gonna grab another spotlight. It's gonna be right in, oh, I grabbed the wrong spotlight. I need a target light, sorry. Target light, it's gonna shine on it like that. So, and on this light, I'm gonna do something a little different and just tweak the colors of it. So I want to have some contrasting colors on here, maybe a little bit of an orangey color over here like that. And then I'm gonna make another point light. I'll move this one up and maybe out a bit, but I'm gonna change the color of this one to maybe a little bluey color. And of course, we're gonna add some shadows to this. So on both of these, I can select both at the same time. And I can say, hey, I want some shadows on here. Let's try some soft shadows on this one. Click on this one, hide this out of the way. give it a quick render to see what I have to change on it. But you can start to get stuff that looks, you know, pretty cool pretty quickly if you start bringing stuff over from Illustrator and adding a few textures, right? So that was the extrude. The last one that I'm going to show you guys, and I'm going to have you guys work on something, and you guys don't even have to, you can build this if you want. I haven't had very many places where I've used this. Well, a couple more I want to show you. One is the connect. So I should start closing some of these. I'll get rid of this screwdriver right here. We don't need that anymore. So I'm going to make a new file. Okay, we're not building anything in particular. I just want to show you how this one works, okay? So I'm going to have a rectangle right here. Maybe I'll bevel the edge. So drop it, you guys can follow along. Drop this rectangle in for me, please, everybody. And I'm just rounding the edges off like that, just because it looks a little bit better. I'm going to grab a circle and scale it in so it fits in on the inside of that. Maybe I'll grab another circle and kind of throw it up here. So I got two circles, making sure that I'm staying within the same axis right here, so they're all still lined up. Okay, let's say this is a back of like your phone or something. You got all the different cameras on the back. So how much does iPhone have? It has like 3 different cameras on it.
You got 3 now.
So there we go. So let's say that this is the bezel for the back of that. Okay? All right, so if I grab all of these, I'm going to place them in a connect. So the connect is going to see it as one object. So let me grab a connect object right here and play, oops, not like that, just need one connect. Grab all of these and place them in the connect. Now nothing's going to happen until I take this, and if I take that connect and place it now in an extrude, I have all my different cameras here. Now, all of these in here are, I can still grab these and move them around and position them and stuff. If I go into the extrude, I can still add a bit of a radius to it, kind of smooth it off. So I've used this to like build out like an iPhone or something before, okay? Now, the very last one that I want to show you, everybody, and I'm going to have you guys build this one along with me because this one will come in handy. Let's say that I have my original rectangle right here. I'm going to pull this one out and make a copy of it, just so I know it's the same size, okay? Oops, I pulled it out without doing it. You can see what happens. I've got to make a copy of it though. So I have this one right here, okay? And it's the same size as the one that's on the outside. You can see the, if I pull it out a little bit, you can see it right there. It's separate from everything else. Now, if I wanted to add like a bezel to something, like a metal surrounding around something, I can use this in that manner also. So, but I need 2 different ones, 2 different rectangles for this to work. So let me grab another rectangle. I'm going to make the size of this one substantially smaller because it's just going to be the thickness of the bezel. And we can always adjust the size of it after. So there it is right there. That little one right there. I want to tell this little one right here to travel around the outside of this to build some geometry. So this is what I'm going to do. So I'll have both of these together. Okay, look up here please everybody. Both of them are together. So this one here is the profile, let's call it. That's the one that's giving it thickness. And this one here is the path. Okay? Now, I'm gonna show you the mistakes that are made so you know how to fix them, but this is the generator that we use for this. In this case, we're gonna use one called a sweep. Okay, so here's the sweep, drop the sweep in, you're gonna grab both of these and place them inside the sweep. Now you can see the explosion that I had right here. Now if I switch these around, you can see that that is fixed. So they were in the incorrect order before. So now if I start changing the profile piece, profile always goes on the top, okay? Remember that. If you're using a sweep, the profile piece always is on the top in the hierarchy. So if I change this now, I can start making edits to it this way, I can start moving it out like that, okay? So that's one way you can use it. Another thing, I got asked to build, you know, the shock system for a car at one time, okay? This would be perfect for it. Have a look up here, please, everybody, and I want you guys to follow along this time, okay? Let me get rid of all of this. To build the shocks in a car, I need a path to start. So here's the path. I'm going to use a helix, okay? Drop the helix in. And change the orientation of it to XZ, so it's standing straight up like that. Okay, so there's orientation. I have a start radius. The start radius, I'm gonna change it from 200 to just maybe, let's go 50. And be a lot smaller at the bottom there. And the end radius, which is different from the end angle, I'm gonna make that 50 also, so that they're the same. And the end angle, I'm going to crank that up. So I'm gonna give a whole bunch more of these like that. So that is the outline of my shock that I'm going to build, let's say. Okay? And I think I have my revolutions up on my end angle to, let's say 2,500. Okay? Now, in the same manner that we use that little square as a profile piece to outline the shape of the bezel on the other one, I'm going to do the same thing here with a circle. So let me grab a circle spline. That's way too big. I'm going to crank this down. Let's say that's the thickness of the shock that we're using. Okay, so I have that at around, it's at 12 right now. Let me make it 15, just to give you guys some numbers. Doesn't really matter. So now, once again, if I grab the sweep, which one is the profile, guys? Circle or the helix? And which one is the path? Which one? Path is a helix, correct. And 50-50, then the other one has to be the profile, right? So I'm gonna grab these, dump them in, making sure that the profile piece is at the top. And you get that. Now you can still edit everything that's in here. Like this is obviously not looking like much of a spring. Let me crank this down a little bit. And once again, it's always good to see the geometry because this usually is too thick right now. So if you have like a whole bunch of different shocks on here to render this out, you might have some issues with it, right? So on the circle, let me go into the circle one for a second. And if this was working, it would be fantastic. But we have a number right here set to 8, so you can see what the geometry looks like. If I start turning that up, you can see how dense it gets. If I start turning it down, we can have less geometry on it. Okay? Same goes for the helix. More and less. We don't want it to be too much. We don't want it to look like that. We still want it to be smooth enough, but we have to kind of refine that geometry a little bit. So there's your shock. And we can always go in and edit like the height and stuff of it. You know, I can always go in and have it bounce around and stuff if I wanted it to. Okay? So that that's how you would build it out. Now, the other parts of it are relatively easy to build, you could,
Sure.
you know, put the rest of it in, but that's how the sweetener works. Okay, now, you guys aren't gonna get this done, or I should just break this down for you at least. Let's go back over here for a second. I am going to, let me just put everything in a null.
Nice.
Just a quick quiz, everybody. How does this work?
Go ahead.
Okay? So everything that it took to build this, not everything, one thing that I didn't show you, that I will show you, because now that I see it. Everything that took to build this, you guys know how to do now. Okay?
Mhm.
So, let's have a look at this. Let's start breaking this apart. How did I build this part?
Oh, you used the shape that you used.
Give me a generator, yellow to generator. Yes?
Was it a ladle?
Which one?
Was it a ladle or the other one?
Lathe? This is a
Lathe.
lathe for sure. So
Nice.
let's have a look. There are these earbuds right here. Let's find it. This thing is so slow right now. Look for the one that is selected on the lathe right here. There it is. There's this one right here, okay? If I look at the lathe, go to the options for it. There it is,
Mhm.
okay? There's one. Next quiz. This piece right here. Anybody? Feel it? Remember, we use it to build a screwdriver. This is what it's made up of, okay. Loft, yes. Next time I'm gonna bring prizes in. So there's a loft, this is what it's made up of. So one rectangle down here at the bottom, and I know it doesn't look like a rectangle, but it's got some rounding on it. And another one at the top. Here, let me just turn this off so you can see it. Okay, so there's each one. I'll select all of them so you can see it a little bit better. So rounded rectangle and a couple of circles. And you put them all together and you get that. Right? This one right here, we just did it. Nope. Sweet. Yes.
Hmm.
So, did you cheat and say sweet? Because you saw it up here.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a sweet. Does have this little capsule thingy on there. I'll show you how that's done. I got one more generator to show you. And then, last but not least, everybody, we did this, right? Put it back together. Beats logo. How was that done?
I think so.
Extrude. And where did the original file come from? Illustrator. Perfect. Awesome. Right here, this little cogwheel thingy.
That'll be the seat. That's what we did with the.
Not necessarily the shape, but how did I build this from a spline? What was used? Yeah, cogwheel, and then what else? Man, I have everything open here so you guys can see it.
Yeah.
Alright, there it is. Extrude's highlighted. So just cogwheel extruded. Okay. Texture wise, everybody. Let me back this up. If you look at the texture right here, we got a metallic texture, we got a green texture, we got a black texture, and we have this texture, and a texture I haven't shown you actually. This little glowy one right here. I don't see it right now. So with all of that, we get something like this. Okay, so the same frosting of the glass to make it look like silicone a little bit more. Metallic aluminum texture right here. This one is grabbed from over here also, just plastic green. You can change the color of it if you like. And then inside was a little bit of not a generated object, just a torus for this part right here. Or two, sorry. Okay? Now, the one that I didn't show you, everybody, is this one right here. Let me click on this. You'll notice in the side of this, I got a hole going through the side of this right here for that little button to stick in, right? This is how that was done. I'll build it in a separate window so you can see it. So let's say I have a cube and I have a sphere and they're intersecting each other. Let me make this a little bit smaller. Right? I used a generator in here called a bool tool, and it's a bit of a pig as far as taking up computing time, but you find it right where you found all the rest of them. There's a bool, grab it, kind of like the Pathfinder in Illustrator. Okay, if I switch these around, it's going to put a hole right through it, right? So it is a quick way to punch holes through things without adding a whole bunch of geometry. So just like the Pathfinder tool in Illustrator, but only for 3D. Okay, now let me quit Illustrator just for a quick second. There's a Beats logo. Let me quit this, and let me just reopen it back up, see if I can dig something out. There it is. I don't know if this will actually open, but I'll see. No, it's not gonna find it. That one. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see this or not. I was building this on another machine. This is like a full jet engine right here. That's being built with everything that you did today. Okay? The only exception is that the path for this was built out in Illustrator first. Like the profile piece for the jet engine, that's all Illustrator, one piece. And then that's just put on a lathe, wrapped around. I opened it up halfway and then built all the components inside. This is the blaze up here, done with the cloner. And then the rest of it is just like really straightforward geometry in here. So I'll see if I'll dig this file out. I'll bring it in next week so you can see that if you just expand on a little bit of what you've done today, you can build a lot of stuff. There it is right there. Not a very good image of it, but that's what it looks like. So the blades. And then once we get into sub D next week, there's a lot of stuff you guys are going to be able to build. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, what I was going to do, everybody, but we're running out of time, but that's okay. And I haven't done it with any other class before. I was going to say, knowing what you guys know now, I was going to let you loose on this and let you actually build this. To start just building all of those separate pieces. So far we've just built every piece individually, but I'd like to see you start building multiple pieces and then start assembling something. Kind of like the snowman, but just with more complex pieces. Okay? If you look at, let me see here, like all of this stuff right here, AC people posting, this is not photography, this is all 3D stuff. So I literally came to class today and said, let me see if I can put some headphones together that you guys can build using the tools that I'm going to show you today. And there's no reason why you guys can't get in and build some of this stuff. Knowing that you can import stuff from Illustrator, knowing how to lathe and loft and use the connect tool and the sweep tool, if you put all those things together, you can build this stuff. There's no reason why you can't build this stuff now. Okay? So when it comes to stuff like the FIP, which I should tell everybody that there are a series of videos that go step by step through the FIP as far as the build of it goes, specific to one drink. So for your homework, please look at that. There's no reason why you guys can't start putting some of this stuff together. Okay, so if you do like this stuff right here, if you do like any of this 3D stuff that we've worked on, you know, challenge yourself to start putting some of this together. Now, some of it, like this one right here, is going to take a little bit of sub-D modeling to do, which we'll get into next week. But for stuff like this, you guys can build this no problem now. Like all of this stuff that's up here, like you can build this. Right? There's all this stuff you can build. If you look at something like this that looks super complex, if you break this down, what is it? It's a cylinder. It's a cutout. It's a bunch of little tubes on the inside with some textures on it. If you want to cut this stuff out, use some little cylinders to cut this section out. You know, so you can build this stuff. So don't leave off with just what we did in class today because it's very basic. Start putting together what we did in class and break down different objects that you might see around and start trying to build them and put them together. So next week, I won't keep you guys any longer because I know I won't give you guys 15 minutes to build this because it certainly didn't take me 15 minutes to build it. Next week, we're going to get into some sub-D modeling and better yet, some volume modeling, where we can start building stuff that's much more complex than even these headphones right here. Okay? But a couple of things I want you to walk away with is just start looking at objects around you and noticing